people kind of think that their relationship with God is like they're like one of those old scuba divers that has the line of oxygen coming down to them, but and they think, they sing songs like, Jesus and me, and that's how they think about their relationship with God, that is profoundly personal. And while it is personal, what must happen is that we're connected to a community, because it's not Jesus and me, it's Jesus and we.
Hey everybody, welcome back to River City Waves. It's a podcast where we are having conversations about navigating life's important questions. My name's Kenny, and I've got a guest here with us today, as always joined by the Pastor Robby. How you doing?
Hey, doing very well.
Good to see you, sir. And none other than Mr. Nick Henke himself. How's it going, bud?
It's going really good. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Nick is the student ministry pastor, the youth pastor here at River City Church, and man, just excited to have you on the podcast. Many don't know that Nick is often the man behind the camera, behind the microphones, really helping make everything work. So glad to have you on this side here today. It's going to be fun.
It's good to try out something different.
Yeah. How's your guys' week been going so far that people need to know? Good week.
Very good. I've awakened each morning at like 5:15 and felt great, because I often wake up many days when I wake up that early, I don't feel fantastic.
That sounds right to me. Yeah.
But I have these days. I'm like, what's going on here? Is this a product of like something I'm eating, or the air quality?
Like, what is
it? Yeah.
Nick, are you waking up in the 5 o'clock hour feeling refreshed and ready for the
I
day?
can't say I've been up at 5 o'clock once this week.
I'm profoundly disappointed.
That is awesome. That's awesome. When we have babies in the house, sure. But like once they're a year old plus, it's like mom and dad need their sleep. So maybe I need to pray some of that onto my life, that waking up feeling refreshed. I most often am waking up just, I think, feeling kind of tired.
Well,
Lord, give me some of what Pastor Robby has. So anyhow, well, I'm glad you guys are having a good week. We're going to dive in to today's topic. I'm excited about this because as pastors, I feel like that are in occupational ministry, this topic we're talking about today is often something that we hear from those attending church, people who maybe feel de-churched, or they feel like I don't have a place in the church any longer, based off of experiences that have happened to them. Oftentimes, people struggle with the idea of community. And again, kind of in this post-pandemic era that we're navigating, community being a huge component of everything that's been impacted in recent years. But community is a really important part of how we're designed to live in community, that God created us as relational beings. And to that end, we've just kicked off a series here at River City entitled Belong, and very much dealing with this concept, this idea of community,
right,
and its importance. And this past Sunday was the first kind of installment of that series, and talking about Jesus and his plan for community. How we were talking in preparation for this, Robby, about how Jesus was born into this human family, right? And then created this sense of community among his disciples. And we kind of looked at this past Sunday. What else would you add to that as kind of a highlight reel for those who maybe missed this opening session that ties so directly into what we're talking about today?
Yeah, it's I think it's a lot like people kind of think that their relationship with God is like they're like one of those old scuba divers that has the line of oxygen coming down to them, but and they think, they sing songs like, Jesus and me, and that's how they think about their relationship with God, that is profoundly personal. And while it is personal, what must happen is that we're connected to a community. And that's why the first message is called the Jesus community, because it's not Jesus and me, it's Jesus and we.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's really good. So much to unpack there, and we'll get into it. This idea about we, and we're probably going to say the word community a lot today, not a ton of synonyms that you can draw there. So just buckle up for that. You're going to hear a lot about that. But really the truth is community is an important element in our lives, and for a couple of specific reasons, right? And we're going to talk about today for accountability. It's a really important component that's tied in with community, and as well as just like our spiritual health, our spiritual growth. I think those are really important components that we are going to unpack here today. But we weren't created to kind of live lives that are islands by ourselves. We weren't created to just be over here and alone. We need community. But Nick and I were talking about this very thing this week, this idea that it does require effort, that we do have to put something in whether it's like getting to know your neighbors in your neighborhood, or whether it's like, hey, I'm going to wake up though I'm tired because I didn't wake up at 5 a.m. feeling refreshed. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go to church today. I'm going to be a part of this fellowship, this connectivity, this community, because I know it's important to my growth. And that's one of the big ideas we want to talk about today is that we need people in our lives. And not only do we need people in our lives, we need people who are different than we are.
Yeah.
That would be like a really big important thing, is like not just looking for all duplicate or carbon copies of yourself, but looking for people who are different than you are. Why would you guys say that that's something that's an important part of community?
Yeah, I think every person brings in a brand new perspective, So if you surround yourself with people that are exactly like yourself, you're all going to think exactly the same way, and you're not going to pull away anything new from each other. You can't learn off of each other. When you come to the table with a bunch of different perspectives, then you can learn from each other so much more easily.
Yeah, that's good. People see things that maybe it's a blind spot for you.
Yeah.
And you can kind of learn those things. Hey, I've got a blind spot here. Like I've learned that because I had this conversation with this person. Yeah, that's really good. Did you have something to add, Robbie?
I was just going to mention that, I think that a group of people who have like different perspectives from each other, they might find it challenging to get along. But if they're like focused together on tackling a problem or accomplishing some kind of new thing, then there's absolutely value in having some different perspectives around the table, because they think they're processing the same issue differently.
Yeah, community and family, hard to maybe separate those ideas at times, right? Like community that we're in by choice, or the family we're in not by choice. Often we see some of the very same commonalities, the same threads present in both. And in an ideal situation, you don't like have a struggle or an issue in your family and then just like walk out of it entirely and remove yourself from it, right? Ideally, you're working things through, and in the end, you're better because of what you've navigated as a family. I think that's true in the church world as well. In this idea of community, the church being your family, I think it's not always easy. You don't always see things the same way as the person next to you, but there's value there in being engaged as a family, as a body of believers, working through hard things, being there to celebrate the great things that happen in each other's lives. What would you guys say to that idea about the church being a family? This idea of finding community present within the family at your church.
I think it's really that's why the New Testament uses the language of brothers and sisters, that we're meant to be brought together. It also talks about fathers and sons. The idea is we're going to be brought together with people that are different from us into a family-like structure. Here's the thing about the family of God, and that is it's never going to end. And in fact, the penultimate expression of family happens in heaven, right? The idea of heaven that's presented in the Bible is that it is a marriage supper. It's a celebration of the coming together of God's people and God, and they are one people. They're one family.
Gosh, that's good. I know in my experience, like with family and other communities, close friends that I've been involved with, again, it can sometimes be challenging and most of the time can be great, right? But there's always something to be learned from being in those environments. Nick, put you on the spot. Is there anything comes to mind for you where you say like, man, I'm better having been a part of the family of God. Like the family of God has supported me in this way, or I've learned so much in this way. Like what would you speak to on that?
Yeah, I think that, I've had a chance here at River City. I started in the college here, and so I was surrounded by so many different people that like at the start of my college career, like they were so different from me, and I felt very like they are not going to become my family. Like I don't get along with these people.
These aren't my people.
Yeah, this isn't going to work out very well. We're not similar. But over time, I spent so much time with those people, and still today, I consider those guys that I spent time with, those are my best friends still today.
Wow.
And because of all the time we spent together and all of the late night conversations we had about the gospel and all kinds of different things going on in our lives together, because we grew together so much, I consider them my family today. Because we built each other up during moments that were very critical in our lives. And so it was just really great and really impactful to have that community around me. And without them, I don't know where I'd be today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about somebody I met this summer who was, he's an HR person in a big company in the Eastern United States. And he said that the biggest struggle in terms of getting great employees and keeping them is finding people who are willing to get beyond their comfort zone and connect relationally with others. And I said, why do you think that is? And he said, it's your phone. Your phone is designed to make you interested in that.
Sure.
And even when it comes to other people, of course, social media, it's a fake interface with others, but it feels like you're having an interface with others. But in fact, it isolates you even more. And I would say it is the tendency of the world to want to isolate ourselves from anybody that we might be uncomfortable with or that we decide we don't like right away. We want to curate not only the content we get, we want to curate all the people that we would expose ourselves to. And of course, that's unproductive. That doesn't lead to growth in my life.
Yeah, something Chelsea and I say in our house often that we learned pretty young in ministry together was this idea that you often have to do the right things. You have to take the right actions before the right feelings come.
That's good.
And so when you're saying this, Robbie, it makes me think about the enemy of our soul would love to give us these things that could be fine on their own, but would love to distort our view and our interaction with a phone, with Facebook, with Instagram, TikTok, whatever it might be, and would love for us to get like this sense of fulfillment that's really pretty artificial.
Yeah.
This filling this void in us that really was intended to be filled with relationship with God, relationship with other people. Like you're talking about growing in relationship with others in your community. And man, wouldn't the enemy just love for us to take that fake version of that kind of relational fulfillment and connectivity and be like, oh, that's good enough. I don't need to go to church this Sunday. I already know what they had for dinner last night, so-and-so, because I saw it on Facebook. Like, we're connecting when you're not connecting how you were designed to in that way. You're not connecting like family. And that's just really interesting.
And one of the things too, that happens with the phone is that all these things come up that where you don't have to interface with people. So like you go to McDonald's and you got the app, you can order your phone there, you can sit in a parking spot, never talk to anybody, and the person brings it out to your car and you take it. And what this does is I think it weakens our muscles in terms of being able to relate to others or problem solve with others. Because there are plenty of problems if I go into the Taco Bell near my house.
I would agree with you, and I would just say maybe find another restaurant of choice. No shade, Taco Bell. Sorry about that. Okay, so have you guys ever heard this thought that you become like those you surround yourself with?
Yeah.
You've heard like in various forms of that said. So true or false? You become like those that you surround yourself with. And we're talking about community, right?
Yeah.
So is that true?
Definitely true.
Okay.
I think of one of my college roommates who I lived with him for 3 years. I spent a lot of time with him. When we started out, we were very, very different people. But by the end of our college time together, I would walk out of my bedroom and I would realize that he is wearing the exact same outfit that I'm wearing right now. Like, he's got same sweatshirt, same jeans, same shoes, same hairstyle. Like, we look exactly the same right now, to the point where I have to go change.
Yeah. I think we got to point out a wardrobe malfunction that happened.
Yeah.
He and I have been spending a lot more
I was going to
time
say, it's
together.
only been 6 months, Nick, and we have the same shirt, the same jeans, the same shoes right now.
Yeah. Well, when you work with someone you love, it just happens.
It just happens that way. That's awesome. Nick, how old are you?
22.
Okay, so at 38, if I can dress the same as someone your age, I'm taking that as a compliment all day.
Yeah.
I'm on cloud 9 today. I'm gonna walk in and Chelsea's gonna be like, "Why are you so happy?" Because I wore the same thing as Nick today.
I just realized you're exactly at the midpoint between his age and my age.
Wow. So the next thing. Okay, so let's get this train back on track. Okay, so it's true, Nick, that the people you surround yourself with. That's who you become. Like, I've heard that people who've been married, the longer they've been married, that friends start to say that they start to look alike. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I did hear a scientific explanation about that somehow, because of all the trading of DNA that happens.
Stop.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Okay.
I doubt it's right.
Okay. So what I read about this topic was because of the depth of your emotional connection, that you begin to mimic each other's facial expressions, mannerisms, choice in language, the way you frame things in conversation. And so people interpret that as, oh, they're starting to look alike, or over the years they look more alike.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I don't know. Like, maybe let us know in the comments. Is it DNA or is it facial expressions? 'Cause
Yeah,
we'd love to hear about that.
I do know that there have been studies conducted that do show that a person's like 8 closest relationships, that there is a pretty tight spectrum when it comes to how much you weigh. The way the amount of money that you make, and your educational level.
Wow.
And so yeah, the people you spend a lot of time with, you will become like them.
Yeah. So, like, choose your community well.
Absolutely.
Nick, do you see this present in the age group that you work with most? You're the youth pastor. Ages you work with, and like how you see this trend present. When are these groups of friends becoming more and more like one another?
Yeah, I think they most definitely are. In our youth group, one of my biggest focuses is community. I think that there's nothing so important in your relationship with God as having people there right beside you to build you up and encourage you and help you grow stronger. And so I see this, the closest of friends they'll use the same language. They will, like, the way that they talk, like their mannerisms will be very, very similar. And they will be in cliques together that just, like, they all look similar. They're all like right there around the same age, and they're all very, very similar to each other.
Yeah.
And so we really focus on this idea of community, though, because we believe that you are stronger together. One of my favorite passages to read about and to teach the students from is the first few chapters of Daniel. The story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You see, the interesting thing about this passage is that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their names are always mentioned together. They're always mentioned in a group, in like a little clique together. They're never mentioned alone in the entire book of Daniel. And because of that, they had an extremely good community with each other. And they're known as people that were so committed to God. Some of the most committed people that you read about in the Bible. I mean, they faced death for God because they were in such a strong and such a tight community. And so because of that, I personally believe that your commitment with Jesus is so much stronger when it's in community. Your commitment, it lasts better when you have those people around you. And so we continuously teach that to our students because we know that they're going to be stronger. Some of the most successful students that I look at now that I knew that graduated a few years ago, like if they're still in church today, then I I look back at their youth group days, and I'm like, they were in a really good community, and they're still in that same community now. And so we're trying to gather around every student a group of people, a group of friends that they can leave youth group with, that they can leave knowing that they have this connection to the church and the body of Christ.
Yeah, that's really helpful insight. You know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were also friends with Daniel. And what's so interesting about them, about those four people, is that, you know, they lost everything they had. Their families were likely killed when they were taken to Babylon. Their home city was devastated. All the buildings burned down. The temple was burnt down, and then they were given new names. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Those are the Babylonian names that were given to those three people. And you know, Daniel was also given a different name, and he was given a Babylonian name. He's called after one of their false gods. And the thing is, the idea that after all that devastation and loss, that they would become the people of character and to stand up in the face of having lost everything, say, we want to continue to worship our God. We want to continue to live for Him, and we want to take whatever chances are involved with that. We're gonna stand to the end. I'm sorry, you don't become a person like that on your own. You become a person like that in a group of people who are also affirming you. That's why getting into a group is so important.
Yeah. It's not just about filling your calendar. It's not just about like going through the motions, right? Like this idea of being better together and closely knit in community, it impacts our spiritual growth or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. The lack of community can be directly correlated to a lack of spiritual growth in our lives. And we've got to kind of wake ourselves up every now and again and remind ourselves, hey, I'm not just going to church. I'm not just going to the group like for the sake of going, but there's a deep spiritual impact on my life and then vicariously on those around me. Like those things trickle out. There's a ripple effect out of my spiritual health and my spiritual growth and how that impacts those around me.
Right. And you know, character is greatly impacted by staying in close relationships with others, because I have to practice things like patience. I have to practice forgiveness. I have to practice sympathizing for someone else and not just thinking about myself. And that is the reason why so many people do avoid relationships.
Man, that's so true. We need each other. We need community. And like Robby said, there are a ton of reasons, a ton of excuses that we can use that remove ourselves from that important sense of community that we find when we're meeting together. And we shouldn't do that. We should avoid that at all costs. We need each other. We need to be learning from one another. We need to be encouraging one another. And that's our hope right here with River City Waves, is that we're giving you content, we're sharing in conversation that's encouraging you and challenging you and helping you grow. So man, do us a favor. If this content has been helpful to you, would you do us a favor and just share this, follow the channel, help others know that there's information here on this podcast that might be beneficial to them. And I want to thank you so much just for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.